and welcome to the Schools Cup special. In the absence of the normal January Cup fever, we've got a few distinguished guests with a great history in Schools Cup, just to come on and talk about some of the great memories of the Schools Cup and what the Schools Cup means. So firstly, I'm joined with part of a kind of a unique triple people that have all played and coached within the international programs for Ireland. So I'm joined by Erin Bracken, played underage basketball and coached the underage teams up till in recent years, and also has won multiple Schools Cups as a coach. Erin, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Also joined by Adrian Fulton, former Irish international player, part of the current senior men's international setup as a head coach under Mark Keenan. Also head coach of the current men's Super League champions Belfast Star, and again Schools Cup titles dating back to the last century, I believe, or close to, from the new millennium. Adrian, good to join us.
Thanks, Matt. Nice to be here.
Predating that, even for his first win of 1997, another former Irish international, one of the best Americans to play in the country, and former Irish international and part of the coaching program with the senior men's team. Huge amount of experience within his family as a coach and his family as players from Schools Cup is Jerome Westbrooks. Jerome, great to have you with us. Thanks for coming on today. We've a bit of a delay on some of Jerome's
hey, Matt.
Internet there. Are you sure you're not in America, Jerome? We've had an American delay there almost.
Yeah, you would think so. I know. Stuck here in Baldoyle.
Well, it's great to have you all on, and glad everyone is safe and well. And I suppose quickly onto that front, Adrian, I come to you first as a teacher within a school. COVID has obviously hit basketball in general massively, but schools basketball as much as anybody. What's the current situation within the schools? Is there any basketball being played with actual schools, even though it's not competition, or is it just flat out nothing within schools?
No, obviously at the minute, Matt, north and south of the border, everybody's gone to remote learning. So we can't do nothing at the minute. We had at a stage before Christmas, around kind of end of October, start of November, done a little bit with our kids, hoping that things would improve. So we really got going for about 2 weeks, a lot of individual work with the kids at school. Because obviously with our younger players, particularly the kids coming into the school, you want to identify them and expose them to the game early. Because obviously they can go in any number of different directions in terms of music or drama or sport, obviously lots of different sports. So we try to start our basketball program as early as we can with our first years to encourage them. But obviously we've lost that opportunity as well. So it's been frustrating, but hopefully we can see some light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, let's hope so. I suppose we've talked to death about COVID on every meeting that anyone's ever been on over the last 6 months, 8 months. So let's try and keep it positive and get on to some good memories. So I suppose, Jerome, what would you say? What's the Schools Cup? What makes the Schools Cup so special in Ireland? You've been involved in it for a long time as a coach, as a parent. What makes it so special, and why it's such a big part of the Basketball Ireland calendar?
Well, Matt, you've already kind of mentioned a couple of the stakeholders, and it really does centers around all the people that are involved. I mean, you just mentioned parents. You start talking about players. I'm there as a coach. You talk about the school, all of the school supporters. I mean, the cup is just special and has been to all of those individuals and all those different, as I say, stakeholders. From the very beginning to when I started back in '97 to my last venture there back in 2018, 2019.
Yeah, it's as someone who came from a country, from a different country, I'd never seen anything like it the first time I saw it. Certainly not something that's replicated in Great Britain, just in terms of the different standards. But just going back, Erin, boys won't mind you mentioning that you might have been the last one to have played in this kind of competition. It'll be a few years before they last played. But within the school itself, as a player, first of all, what was the kind of buzz around it as you first learned about the School Cup?
As a player, so
yeah,
I mean, we played when I was in school all them years ago. We were in the C League, so it was kind of completely different standards. You might have been playing Division 1 basketball in the club, and then you were going and playing C League basketball. And we had a very good team, and we were quite good, but it took us a while to kind of get to the All Ireland stage. And we actually never won a cup, so we won a league at under 16, so that got us promoted then to B League, but we actually never won the cup. But I do remember going to watch games, and I just remember you couldn't get over the atmosphere in the arena, because all the schools would bring bus loads of kids to go and support. And these are students that, probably don't know anything about basketball that are watching, but they get so invested. And the noise that does be kind of emulating in the hall and everything, it does bring that kind of, special feeling to it. And I think when you're then involved with National Cup that same weekend, the whole week from Monday to the Sunday of Cup, whether it's the Subway Schools Cup or the Hula Hoops National Cup, it's just one of the best weeks in the whole year, when it comes to the Basketball Ireland calendar. So it definitely is something that's really special to be involved in as a player or a coach.
Yeah, look, I can say from the staff point of view as well, it's exactly the same. That whole week is, one of the most times you energize most during the year. Yeah. Just on the crowds there, Jerome, I mean, you've been there a lot. Holy Faith bring a lot of supporters to the games there, but what makes it unique, I suppose, to me is the crowds in the B and C competitions, and how a 29-30 point game, 30-29 win, can feel like the best game in the world when you're watching, just because of the atmosphere within the gym.
Well, that's exactly what happened. For me back in '97, we were in a B final, a senior B final there. And I can remember, what really sticks out at that particular final, we went into overtime, and I can remember the regulation coming to an end, the girls coming into a huddle, we had to go into overtime, and I just kind of stopped, and I was thinking, oh, I really need to start coaching here now, because up to then, I was just blown away by the whole atmosphere of things. I was, as Erin said, we had every student in the school came to that game. The principal had every student come to, so I thought it was 15, 16 busloads that we had there. And it was just, and this was a B final. Thankfully, I did start coaching a little bit, and we pulled it out.
As always. Adrian, on that subject, I suppose, I don't think I've ever seen a sport in any country that the C finals and the B finals mean the same. So, you could put an A final followed by a C final followed by a B final, and you'll see the same kind of atmosphere in the gym and the same kind of enthusiasm from the staff and the players. How does that work? How does the whole competition, how does it work for so many years, having such a difference in standard, being such an important competition? The C competition is hugely important for schools basketball.
Yeah, I think you have to give credit to the people who organise it, and Basketball Ireland itself, because year in, year out, no matter what way they structure it, whether it's a day with, you've got 4A finals, or as you say, you've got a mixture of C and D with an A, it doesn't seem to ever let anybody down in terms of the atmosphere. Obviously, coming from Belfast, we never normally quite have the bus loads down that we would like. Obviously our school is very, very supportive, so we might get 100 kids down, but eventually you're always kind of walking in there thinking we're going to get swamped here by and I suppose that's one of the challenges for us and the kids as players. You're trying to silence the crowd. But the first time that any team gets to the arena and you open the doors, and you just the wall of noise is just incredible, particularly when in girls games. I've always found that I know whether the teams, as much as the crowd seem to be so hyped about it, but it's just a terrific atmosphere. It really is. They're great to be involved in.
When you mentioned a little bit earlier about the C games you've played in, so obviously as Cloistercune have gone from C to A, and you mentioned maybe even D before that, so you might touch on that. But how did the development from schools go through those years when you went from C to A, and how much did that grow a kind of basketball buzz in that area, or even going on to club and Liffey Celtics and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so years and years ago, my mom was playing in Coláiste Ciarán, and she was involved in the first ever team that won in All Ireland, which was D. So they got the school promoted from D to C. And then when I kind of got involved in the school as a player and I was there as a student, my mom decided that she was going to apply for a job there, because they said that they might, because it was kind of the first year that club players, like, so when I was playing in Liffey Celtics and there was a few other girls on my team, we were from Leixlip, so we went to Coláiste Ciarán, so that was the natural kind of route for us, you know, that was our local school. So it was the first kind of year that we were almost like a club team playing schools basketball. So the school decided that they'd put a bit of money into hiring an outside coach, so it wouldn't just be, you know, like a regular PE teacher that might have a bit of knowledge in basketball. So my mom ended up coaching us then, and eventually we ended up winning the C League final and then got promoted to B. And then as soon as we kind of got into the B League again, the standard of the underage side of the club and Liffey Celtics started to kind of grow a lot. I mean, like when you had the likes of Circa Tiernan and Eve Masterson and those girls were kind of coming through, they all went to Coláiste Ciarán. So it kind of worked hand in hand that our schools team ended up being particularly strong. So we were kind of lucky that way. So they were kind of the first group of girls. Like we had a good mixture. We probably had 7 or 8 girls on the team at one point that played some level of international basketball, you know, whether it was from under 15 academy or under 16 actual like panel or Irish team up to under 18 or under 20. You know, we were very lucky that we had that group of girls come through. Like, and I don't think we'll ever have that again, because Liffey Celtics in general has kind of expanded out now. Like it's not just Leixlip. So Coláiste Ciarán, I don't think we'll see on the big stage as much in the future, but as much as that we had in the past. But definitely, like, a lot of the success would have to be down to the work that my mom did in the underage side of the club in particular, and then she kind of brought that into the schools, and I just kind of gave her a hand out wherever I could.
Yeah, we'll touch on some of the family ties in a little while, but you touched on the point then about the clubs and the coaching and how it brought in. Jerome, like we see within the Dublin area, I mean yourself, but also a lot of other ex-Americans, professional players here and current professional players here coaching within schools within Dublin, and you know, some of them in a professional capacity. What has the Schools Cup done to kind of make schools like Holy Faith and the Lorettos focus and be willing to invest on bringing in such high-level coaches in order to build a basketball program within the schools?
Well, Matt, the first school to really kind of make that investment in regard to myself was St. Fintan's in Sutton. That I would have been brought in through Coláiste, and the school itself, as you said, make that investment, bringing in, you know, a specialized coach and all, and the benefit for St. Fintan's was kind of explained to me as they're preparing their 75th anniversary book on the school. And in the sporting section, the one area that they really wanted to concentrate on was basketball, because they were saying basketball, and in particular the school's cup competition, kind of put the school on the map nationally. That St. Fintan's as a school, the name of the school became very prominent to a lot of people because of the exposure it got through the Schools Cup. So that investment that was made to bring someone like myself in paid off huge dividends for them. And Holy Faith would have been in a similar situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, I mean, you see the same kind of thing happening with colleges now where they're investing in basketball a little bit. Adrian, I suppose for yourself and some of the places outside Dublin where the schools that have been successful have really been schools that have had someone like yourself. I'm thinking Tom O'Malley at the Bish, Cala Sanchez had someone on the staff already that's been coaching. So how within the school has that kind of worked as you progress? And obviously Phil Malloy is now there alongside you for most of the teams.
Yeah, well, obviously Phil's father, Brian, there's always been a great tradition of basketball in Malachy, even back to the 40s and 50s. I'm sure before that as well. But but Paul McCrory did an incredible job. I mean, Paul's was teaching there since about 1976, and Paul's background was really in soccer and Gaelic games, but mostly soccer, and he went to a coaching course and got hooked. And it's a real testament to Paul and the work he did, because like Malachy's, when I started playing, we would have been losing to St. Pat's Armagh and Paston Gannon, who had very good teams at the time as well. Regent House, there'd been lots more schools playing. But Paul did a terrific job, and then I was there since '97. So part of his idea was that obviously if you can employ somebody that's going to help with the basketball, that's obviously going to help. And then obviously with Phil coming in, it obviously helps in terms of the longevity of any kind of schools program in any sport. If you've got somebody there who's teaching in the school, it makes it a lot easier. John Dowling in Mount Hawk, as you say, Tom in the Bish, anywhere there's a member of staff who's willing to invest time. Obviously going back further, you like Roger Kelleher, Mark Smith in North Mon back in the day. So yeah, we're very, very fortunate. But I mean, Paul McCrory deserves so much credit in terms of getting the program to where it is today by putting structures in place, like practice before school, practice at lunchtime, pick up games, trips to the US before we play schools cup games. That's all down to him. So I kind of piggyback that.
Yeah, it's kind of answered another question that I had, out of interest, was how much time and effort that the actual school put into it. Because, you see there, Erin mentioned the club as well, and a lot of the players in other clubs, other schools are playing in clubs. But certainly you mentioned there, it's a school-based thing. So has it really been that Malachy's has really been the driving force behind a lot of the players that have ended up playing at Star, rather than the club having players that went to Malachy's?
Yeah, I think it's worked both ways. I would say when I was there, definitely this as a student, and when I was there initially, I certainly think the school, and the school still does, but I think the profile of underage basketball in clubs has definitely developed. It's definitely improved. Structures are better in the club side of things. So I think they complement each other very well. I think Jerome will appreciate this. The nice thing about most of our kids, not all of them, but I would say 95% of the kids who go to Malachy's and play basketball play for Star. So I can kind of do whatever I want. So when you have the control, and I suppose, and I don't mean that a control freak, but when you have the control, as in, who's coaching the club teams and you can talk to them, the club coaches know who's coaching the school teams and you can converse. So like we would never have an under 14 school practice the same day as an under 14 club practice. That just stands, just common sense stuff, really, but it's nice to have that control,
Yeah.
Probably the schools in Dublin probably don't have that because you've so many clubs available and so many different schools, so we definitely, from a school's perspective, we definitely benefit. It's definitely to our benefit. Maybe for the club, it's to our disadvantage because we really need more kids playing at other schools at a high level to try to help the club compete at national level.
Yeah, I suppose that goes back to the point that Erin just made there about Liffey Celtics being so much bigger than Closter Kewan now. I suppose their benefit. Okay, I want to get on to the family ties because I mean they're bigger than even I realised. Like Jerome, starting with you, I suppose, won your first title in '97, and you in your own children, Leah, Michael, Isaac, and Aaron are constant winners throughout those years. How was it, the week of the Schools Cup within the household with you coaching, players playing? What was the kind of feeling and how special was it being part of that as your family grew up and alongside the Schools Cup?
It was tense at times. I have too many stories, unfortunately, and they probably, he'll probably kill me if, me talking about this in the public. This is, with the oldest one, Michael. But Michael was a handful. So
Anyone
even
who's
though
played against him, Jerome, won't be surprised.
oh my goodness, I know everyone refers to Michael as being rage mode. Well, trust me, he was rage mode from an early age. And so whereas I won with them and all, but it had its moments to where I not all the time, but there were times we had victories and yet we came home and people weren't talking to each other.
Delighted to hear that, Jerome.
You understand, don't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can empathize with you there.
Yeah. Fortunately, that never happened with my daughter, though. Leia was, she's wonderful, superb, ideal.
And that was a question I was going to ask, actually, is and both as parents, you both might answer this, is great to have been involved and win something, with one of your sons or daughters. But is there sometimes a little bit of regret that you would like to have just been sitting in the stands with the same nerves that other parents have, kind of watching?
I don't. Well, it wasn't the Schools Cup, but the answer to that question for me, Matt, is yes, because I was thinking about the National Senior Cup that Leia was involved with Colester last year, and I was just that, a parent in the stands, and had such a real nice time beating drums, dancing with the crowd, wearing my colors and all. So yeah, it is nice.
Yeah, it's nerve-wracking. Erin, you've been on the other side of it, I suppose, being a daughter, but then also coaching a sibling and your sister. How was it coaching your sister in a game? Many arguments, or does she just go with whatever big sister says?
Yeah, no, not really. Like, we got on really well. Like, she was, anyone that knows Kira knows that she was the pure extension as a point guard and as a captain of the coach on the court. So I found it really easy to coach her. Like, she nearly did a lot of your work for you, like out on the floor. Like, and I know Adrian could probably say the same thing about CJ at times, like, with Kira, like that, it was fine. We never really had any problems. Like, I've been coaching her since she was 10 or 11. Like, I had her underage team since they were like little, like in the academy. So we've grown up kind of together. It's really one of the, it's all she knew really was to have myself and Anya with the club. And then she had myself and my mom in the schools and in the club as well. So, we got on really well, like, and there was absolutely no problems there at all. Like, and, the same, even when myself and my mom were coaching together, no issue, like we just kind of bounce off each other really well. It's nice to have another voice there, just somebody to kind of, just be a sounding board, like, but no, absolutely no issues really. And I can't remember any anyways if there was, but
lucky.
Never really a game,
The girls.
Yeah. Say so. I suppose, Adrian, you've seen both sides of it, coaching brothers, I suppose. How difficult was that? I mean, as well as coaching a son, but coaching a brother that's perhaps not too much younger than you. Most brothers normally go up fighting each other. So how did that go?
Well, this is one of the greatest lessons I ever learned as a coach from Paul McCrory. I was just in the school, and we had a really talented team. It actually was my brother Mark's team, and we would normally practice from 3:30 to 5, and at least I would say twice a month we used to go to like 5:30. I just wouldn't let them out of the gym, and I was losing my mind with them. They were very a talented bunch, but a real handful, and anybody who knows Mark he kind of laid back when he plays golf, but he was a bit of a handful along with some of those other guys. But the following year, when we actually won our first A title, I finished practice at about 4:00 once a month, because Paul McCrory said, with those guys, you're not going to beat those guys, so just walk out of the gym. So I learned a lot more. That was very early in my coaching career. He just says, if they go like that, just cut it. So I did that, and we were way more successful that year than we had been the previous year. I think you'll find that our success as a school coincided with the Westbrooks leaving St. Vincent's. If you look through the records, so I certainly remember Jerome bringing the lads up to Malachy's in early rounds, and I don't know if I ever told you this, Jerome, but you're Erin. I know obviously people know Mike and Leigh, and maybe Erin not so much, and obviously Isaac's has a great career, but Erin threw a pass in Malachy's. I don't know why it stuck with me, but he threw in Malachy's a pass one day in Malachi's that I thought, oh my goodness, I've never forgotten it. He caught the ball kind of with his back to he kind of was flashing from like maybe the right block up towards the left elbow, and he kind of caught it here over his shoulder, and he flipped it to a kid cutting behind him, and I was like, this is going to be a long day at the office, you know. You played that 1-3-1 zone. Remember you loved that 1-3-1 zone?
Yeah, still playing it.
Good man. Still effective. But
Well,
anyway,
Erin will be happy to hear that, because, you know, he grew up loving Pete Maravich.
But he was a great player, man. What a player he was. Yes. But now see, like I suppose in terms of CJ, he's very hard on himself, Matt. You know, and as Erin said, generally speaking, he was straightforward enough to coach. You know, it was trying to get him to at times, you know, stop passing the ball. And you know, sometimes you need to you kind of pull him aside and say, dude, you got to score. What do you want us to run? I don't care. Just you need to score. You know,
there was a couple of times like that last year. I'm sure you were saying, I forget which final it was, but it was a final last year where you just needed him to do a bit more, or be as he normally is, rather than facilitator.
Yeah, but no, he's generally fine, you know, because he's hard on himself.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, when I ask you all for your best schools cup memory, either something you're involved with or something you watched. Erin, we'll start with you. Playing, coaching.
Yeah, I think it definitely has to be coaching. Probably the last cup that we won. The final obviously was very good. Like, we beat Christ the King in the final, but we had actually had a tough enough run up to it, and the standard was extremely high that year. Like in the under 19A girls, like, you know, we were playing against internationals all over the place. So I know our quarterfinal, we were down in Creastery in Portlaoise, and we were playing Pat Critchley and his team, and, you know, like May Phelan was playing, and like Shauna Dooley and Ciara Burnett, like they had a very, very good girls team, and it was a tough place to go away and play. So I remember we won that, and then we ended up actually meeting Jerome and Holy Faith in the semi-final in the Oblit Hall, who are like, we're an exceptional team and probably beat us more than we beat them throughout the years of playing each other. But, you know, we got the win in the semi-final, and then we went on to beat Christ the King in the final then. So I think it was more the whole cup run. We played like a ridiculous standard of basketball players out there, and the girls just played really, really well. Like, and they were just such a really nice group. They were just a special group of girls, like, to kind of be involved with, and, you know, they were just extremely talented. So I think it just has to be that, because I don't think we'll ever see, if in Closh Kieran anyway, like a team like that again. Like, genuinely, like, I just don't think there will be. But yeah, I think it has to be that under 19A cup run, the whole run itself.
Jerome, favorite memory?
Well, I really I have to go back to that 1997 first cup win with Holy Faith. And really, I'm going to throw my first cup win with Fenton's in 99 as well into that bracket. I know the Fenton's win was the first A title in the cup for them. That particular game was an incredible personal display by Simon Bean, John Bean's older brother, who scored like 41 points in the game. And we all laugh about, during that warm-up, Simon couldn't hit a shot. And he ends up kind of punching the ball during the warm-up in frustration. And he went and sat in the bleachers because he was so frustrated that he didn't hit a shot, and he goes out and scores 41 points then. You know, so those first two cup victories for me.
Adrian?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. It's tough. I suppose actually the same year as Jerome was talking about, we actually won a B title that year, and I still remember. I was going to say John Leahy jumping into my arms, or me jumping into John Leahy's arms, because John was an assistant. I suppose I jumped into his arms, and we kind of caught ourselves on. Eamon McElhenney made a baseline jumper at this end of the arena. We were holding on for grim death. So that was the first kind of experience of a schools cup. That was an under 19B final. Obviously that was special. I remember the losses more than the wins, Matt, to be honest with you. Normally in dramatic fashion, you know. Listen, I suppose the day CJ made all those threes, I suppose you have to put in there as a pretty cool day as well. But no,
how was that from the sidelines? I was at the game. I think I was commentating on the game, and it was getting ridiculous by the end, because none of them ever looked like missing, and they were by no means open shots. But how was it from the sideline and coaching it, and, you know, trying to stay calm and just be, you know? as you have to be as a coach.
Well,
Keep
you know
going.
what? I think, and people kind of forget that Kira made like 8 or 9 in the previous game.
Yeah,
I don't know. They maybe put bigger rings in that day. Listen, I'll be honest with you, Matt. It was he had made, I think he made 8, and Phil was coaching team. Phil Malloy was coaching, and Phil turned to me and just said, "He's shooting the ball well," and that's really all, because we were so sort of caught up in the game at the time, and we were kind of going, right, he's going to start missing. How else are we going to score? He's going to start missing. That was all the talk. And even
exactly, that's what I
even
was
at
talking about.
halftime, even at halftime, we're kind of going, God, we just can't keep shooting the ball like this. You know, this. You know, we were nervous as a coaching staff. We were nervous because we were going, this isn't going to keep up. And obviously, it did.
It did.
So it did. So yeah.
Which is unusual, isn't it? I mean, it's difficult to keep that going just mentally to continue when you just think everything's going in. You know, it's as hard as missing all the time.
Yeah, if you listen, anybody knows that if you get a good shooter and they get off to a good start, you know, it can be tough to derail them. But listen, there's a guy in the call here, and if anybody had been doing that at the start of a game against him, somebody would have got a line drive. In a nice way, Jerome.
I know.
But you know what I'm talking about.
You got to use a good foul.
Yeah, good foul. Yeah. A good foul for sure.
And I suppose, I mean, even that day, like, you see how much you can find that. I mean, if you Google CJ, you'll find that video come up on the internet. So that, like, in terms of streaming and the coverage that from streaming has made a difference. I mean, there used to be some A games on TV. Some of the TV stations would cover some of the A games, but now since the streaming has come on board, all the games are up there for everyone to see. So how much of a difference has that made, Adrian, in terms of, I mean, first of all, CJ's profile, but also, I mean, it's happened to various other children, allowing them to go on to bigger and better things because those tapes are there for them to see.
Listen, you know, we were actually just talking about this before Christmas about, if you can imagine, even every PE class, never mind a school's cup game, but if PE classes, the kids score goals in a football match or score a point, and it's, you know, you never get that back. So, but particularly schools finals, you know, in years to come, be able to look back and laugh at it and joke, and the memories that they evoke are brilliant. And then obviously, as you talked about, the profile of any player who performs well, it's obviously it adds to their sort of, I suppose, marketability, if that makes sense. Yeah. You know. But I remember talking about when it was, I had Satanta covered the games, and again, one of the first way back, Kieran Donaghy was actually co-commentating along with Declan King, and it was the first time I'd ever seen anybody dunk in a school game. And Paul Dick got out in the break early. This is early in the first quarter. And he took, like, we always slag him, he took about 6 or 7 steps. Not quite that bad, but he definitely traveled because he got so excited that he got so excited. He's like, I can't wait to get to the basket. And he dunked it. And we didn't score for about 5 minutes, like, or more. Had like went on a 15-0 run. We didn't score. But Kieran Donaghy came into the locker room after the game, and he was jumping around and screaming and shouting, you know, as if the crowd was going bananas, and Kieran did a great job along with Declan, you know. So that's obviously a memory that I'll cherish as well, you know.
Yeah, look, dunks a 10 a penny these days, even in the sea. It's just it's unbelievable to watch, isn't it? Where the game's gone and the athleticism's gone. I want to touch on the other side. You mentioned it there, Adrian, the losses. So I'll start with you, Jerome. What do you do after the game when you're stuck with a group of girls in particular with holy faith that are, you know, unconsolable and in tears? That's always the thing that I'm thinking, oh, there's going to be tears after this game. Anytime there's a close game, it means so much to them.
Yeah, girls, unconsolable boys too, you know, but
yeah, in a different way. Yeah, they hold it.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of, a lot of times it does depend on the game. You know, I'll be honest, I've had games where I've gone in very, very sympathetic to what has happened, and you're doing your best, as you said, to console them, try to bring something positive in relation to what has happened. I'll be honest, there have been a number of cup losses that have led to league titles for us.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, that has happened a lot of the times. And then I'll be honest, there was some, Erin is actually here online, and I experienced one of the toughest losses I've had in my career against Kalash Shakira on there. And it's the same year. It was actually the cup semifinals, as she mentioned, and in the league final. And I'll be honest, I didn't say too much in the locker room there. And you have those days too.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, if it hits the coach hard as well, it's difficult, isn't it? It must be a difficult situation. Erin, like with your sis there, and in terms of playing and things like, how do the as a coach do you manage the kind of nerves of things like that? I mean, as a player, you'd have kind of grown up knowing how important it was to get there, and then being on the sideline as a coach, how did you feel, at your first cup final?
I think the first cup, the girls, it would have been that same kind of group of girls, but they were under 16, so obviously they were a little bit younger, and I think we were playing against Gael Closh, so Paul Kelleher's school, he was coaching, and like Louise Scannell and like a few the Glanmire girls were kind of playing. And I don't really remember being too nervous, because again, like I just remember thinking that we are extremely deep, like 1 through kind of 9, we had a club player, like, which is kind of rare, like in schools, like to have a Division 1 like club players to be able to come off the bench, like, if 6, 7, 8, like 9, like they all played club basketball. It was obviously the first kind of big like, I don't know if any of them had ever played in the arena before, like some of the Irish teams, they might have practiced there, some of the girls have played in Irish teams, but I don't know, I think it just made it easier. Myself and my mom coaching together, there was 2 of us, there was no real pressure, it was the first time kind of being involved, like we never really put any pressure on the girls. Like Adrian kind of talked about CJ being hard on himself, like we had girls that were extremely hard on themselves too, like I mean, like Circa Tiernan would have been extremely hard on herself and it massively competitive. So we just kind of had to, I suppose, just trust them, like, and just encourage them to enjoy it, because like, like that, there's busloads of supporters that are after coming to watch, and you don't know when they're going to get back there again. Like, it's great when you do have 4 or 5 different times where you can reflect back on, but you're not guaranteed that when you're there in that moment, that first time, like you have to play like that's the only time you might ever get there, so it was just fun. Like, I just remember having fun with it. Like, and I mean, Kira was younger, I think she's probably about 14, so she would have been under 15 at the time. And like, that's the same age as my other little sister now. And, like, she has never played in the arena. So like, and she might never play in a schools cup, whereas Kira is lucky, like she's had a few different experiences and gotten to play with different internationals and getting to play for me and my mom, whereas Kelly might never ever get that experience,
Yeah.
So it's just, you just have to enjoy it, because like Adrian said, when you look back on those videos and those memories in years to come, like we've often watched games back, like a couple of years later, like we'll just randomly put it on and like that, have a laugh, have a bit of crack, look at players that don't even play basketball anymore, and like it's just nice to look back on. So you just encourage your team to enjoy it, and you have to have fun yourself as a coach, or otherwise it's just not worth it.
Yeah, it's you're lucky not to be too nervous. I tell you, not many of us like that. Adrian, just want to touch back on the one season we were talking about before, the 2007-8 season, when you did the A and B double, which is obviously no longer possible during the rules change. Just give us kind of an insight in how that happened and how that went about.
Yeah, obviously it's a big boys' school, but you might start off with 40, 50 kids in first year playing, and obviously they'll go off in different directions by the time they get to senior level. But we've had a couple of teams over the years, early doors, sort of Eamon McElhenney, that era, Kieran Burns, my brother. There's a lot of guys. We had over 20 players, so we end up with 2 teams. And then the team I'm talking about was kind of involved in Paul Dick. A lot of those guys, Keelan Kearns would have been younger. But yeah, we had an under 19 group, and we had a squad on under 17 group essentially. So we had nothing else for them. So we had 24 players, and we entered both competitions. And I can remember more about the B than the A, to be honest with you, because obviously it was controversial, but people were kind of looking and saying, what are you doing, and why are they going in this competition? But it was a perfect level for them. I think we won every game by like 2 or 3. and including the final, and Marcus Black in the final for, I can't even remember the name of the school that we beat in the final, but wherever Marcus went to school.
I think it's Oscar Reese.
Oscar Reese, yeah, we actually started well. We were in pretty good shape, because those guys would have been good underage, you know, all the way up through. But with such a deep roster at senior level, and there's such a jump from under 16 to under 19, that jump, it's tough to hold on to all the kids. So unless if you have, you know, 20, 25 players and only one team at school, you know, for us that could be 3 years. If you're like in the north, if you're an old fifth year, so we, you know, fifth, sixth, and seventh year up here. So if you're an old fifth year, you're not playing basketball, that could be 3 years without playing any schools basketball. If you've got a big squad, that is. So we were just facilitating, you know, without any expectations of doing well. But I remember that was a great day. Winning both titles was a special day. But I remember working with the B game, and particularly, as I said, Marcus, because we were up a big 20, and we won by 2. And he carried Art School Race in the second half. And you knew yourself, everybody knows that, particularly in the arena, and particularly with such crowds, and kids aren't used to it, and the crowd can work in your favor, and it can absolutely work against you. And if momentum in sport at any level is huge, and we had all the momentum in the first half, and none in the second, and we found it. I don't know what we scored, but it wasn't very much. You know what I mean? Momentum can be brutal. Obviously, it can be good. It can go for you, but that was a special day for sure.
Yeah, great achievement. On kind of the international front, Jerome, like I was looking at the list of boys, first of all, that you involved with as your sons won those competitions, a huge amount of internationals, the Chubbs, Keith Anderson, Beans, and then especially in latter years with Holy Faith, a lot of international females that have gone on to magnificent things and getting us into the A competition and in winning that or getting a medal in the under 18 Europeans. How does that feel when you watch them and the things they've accomplished? You know, you mentioned Sarah Woods as a senior international captain. When you look back and you see those where their careers have gone, and the fact that you had a hand in getting them started through the school system.
Feels good. Feels real good. I just got to watch the video clip that you had on the website of Brona Power Cassidy there at Holy Cross, scoring 17 points, and I think maybe your second or third game in Division I level. And as I was looking at the clip, it just brought me back to watching her over 6 years, and especially those last 3 years doing exactly what she was doing there for Holy Cross. And I mean, so she's the latest in a line of as you say, players, internationals, players have gone on to compete abroad. I mean, she's for Holy Faith, she's the fourth player to play Division I level, fourth there. My daughter Leah started us out there, and followed by Hannah Thornton, who's there with DCU Mercy, then followed by Brona's older sister Saoirse, who went to University of Mass Lowell. So I mean, yeah, it's you're just over the moon. And then when I look at the players here playing at home and at top level for us there, I mean, there's Sarah Woods, who every time I see her take a jump shot, it just kind of blows me away, because I can remember her in Holy Faith practicing to do a jump shot. And to this day, when I've got first years coming in here now, and I'm trying to get them to do a jump shot, all I do is think about Sarah, and of course I'm not able to get anyone else to do a jump shot. But yeah, so I just love watching them, watching my own kids, watching players who aren't playing, say, at top level. I mean, I've had a lot of players who have come through schools who some of them I'm actually playing with, so yeah, it's great.
Yeah, you mentioned watch your own kids. I mean, my favorite part of the Schools Cup week is just looking around the crowd, and you guys as coaches, when you've kids involved and seeing after the games, the parents is in the crowd and some of their reactions, win or lose, is just, yeah, it's just something to behold. It just makes the whole event such a fantastic competition. I I just wanted to see go to Erin. We're running short on time a little bit, so to wrap up shortly. But just kind of looking for what you thought was probably one of the best performances you've seen on it by an individual, or one of the best schools cup performances you've seen since you've been watching or coaching or anything.
Well, I suppose Adrian mentioned it earlier on with CJ going off for 15 trees, and they were at our game, like their game was right after ours. And we actually put on a very strong team performance ourselves that day. Like we put up 90 odd points. And I know some people talk about the arena being a tough place to play and a tough place to shoot. And, like that Kira, she had 9 trees and she got MVP of that game. And then everyone was buzzing over that. And then CJ went out and had 15 trees. And I think even just the 2 games were just like ridiculous. And the 2 of them as like young point guards in the country to put on such individual kind of those type of performances was ridiculous, especially back to back. But I have to say, like, that game was just very good. Like, I mean, Circa was a senior, like she was leaving school, Niamh Mashton was leaving school. The 2 of them had given so much to the school's program, so to go out with a cup win like that and to put up 90 odd points against a very, very good team from Cork, like they were strong, like they had very good club players, that had played also at international level. So I think we won by about 30. Like the game, like definitely our semi-final was probably tougher against Jerome school in the Oblats, than it was actually getting out there. Like semi-finals are harder to win sometimes, like they're just really tough to win. But definitely that final when Kira had 9 trees, like that was obviously really, really ridiculous, like to watch. We were only up about 10 or 12 and then she just went off, and like that kind of broke it away. Like we hadn't really been able to pull away, and that kind of just got the ball rolling. But then CJ going off then afterwards was just madness. So I think definitely those 2 games back to back when we were there in the arena, we couldn't believe after Kira going off in the first game to then see CJ go and make 15. So I definitely think it has to be those 2 games.
Yeah, it was someday, and yeah, like you say, amazing to see them back to back as well. Adrian, anything other than CJ's unbelievable performance? You must have a good few memories.
Yeah, some great memories. As I said to you before, I remember the close defeats for sure. I think a shout out to Matt Harper from Temple Oak. They beat us 2 years ago, I think. Matt's a terrific young player for Temple Oak, and absolutely destroyed with injuries for a couple of years internationally and so on. But he was terrific against us. He shot the lights out against us to beat us in the under 9. Actually, 2 days before that game that Erin's talking about, he was terrific. And obviously, I remember the couple of games against Belvedere we lost to, and they had an unbelievable atmosphere. I think again, like Jerome talked about. I remember that, and I didn't expect to go and sub coach them. Did a brilliant job. We weren't ready for them. They were terrific. And obviously the Temple Oak game when the year we won the schools game on the Friday, and then the club final against Moycull on the Saturday. We had the Quins, Aidan and Connor, Liam Pettigrew, Largy, Oshin Curlin. And I remember in that game, like they had Sean Flood, Wheelock Morrison. They were very, very good. But we were up about 20, I think, in the first half, and they cut it about 15 just before halftime, and we were in good shape, and we went out, and Connor Quinn, who ended up being MVP. Aidan did 5 threes in the first quarter and still bitches about it, but Connor ended up as MVP. But he for about 2-3 minutes he decided that he was going to show everybody in the world how good a player he was. So I was cracking up on the bench, and Phil was with me. I said, I have to call a timeout. I'm going to kill him. And then when I called the timeout, I grabbed Phil and I said, Phil, I'm going to shoot him. What do you reckon? And he said, both barrels. So I remember going at Connor Quinn, and his mum, Frank, and Mary and Frank, his mum and dad, were right behind me, and they were looking right at me, and I just gave it to him with both barrels. But he went out and he played great, so we righted the ship. But that was a day I'll never forget for sure. I don't know if I was more scared of Mary or Frank. I'm not too sure.
There's been a lot of those times, I think Erin mentioned earlier, where schools cup games have been followed by a club game in the cup finals a few days later with similar players playing against each other, which makes for some really interesting matchups. Jerome, your best performance you've seen in a schools cup, individual or team?
Well, individually, I'm back. Going back to Simon being there, that 41-point performance for Fenton's in '99, and team. Well, I'll be honest. Brona, Brona Mabel Shea, Elizabeth Black, and Neve Kinney sent me out well there in the 2018-2019 cup final, and in the sense that they were all 6 years, and I just was able to sit there and have one of those games as a coach where I got to watch it, really got to enjoy it. I'll be honest, a lot of you guys know those 4 girls, so I didn't have to really do a lot of coaching. They were able to coach themselves, at times tell me what I should be doing with them. So I really got a chance to just chill and watch a great performance, and a performance with them, all leaving. So that, I really enjoyed that game.
That's great. Look, time has flown a little bit. So we'll probably wrap it up there. I mean, firstly, say thanks to the 3 of you for your time. It's been a great catch up and thoroughly enjoyable, I suppose. So disappointing for everyone involved. You 3 are heavily involved, but there's so many other players and coaches around the country that aren't getting to play at the moment. And during this, particularly during January, where we're all so focused on basketball, and there's so much basketball within Ireland to watch with the Schools Cup and the league semi-finals and stuff coming on right behind those, and then the National Cup obviously be thoroughly missed. Hopefully, won't be too long before we're back up and running. But yeah, in the meantime, hope you all stay safe, and thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
See you guys.
Erin,
Erin, Adrian.
Bye.
Bye. Take
Take care, guys.
Right, thanks so much,
Bye.
people.
Yeah,
really appreciate it.